Welcome to Booking It. Today's episode will be the Aeneid, Part 2. Hey everyone, welcome back to Booking It. I'm of course your eloquent host, Cooper Cobbs, and joining me today are my good friends, Mr. Tanner Lewis.
Howdy, folks.
Mr. Isaiah Radsky.
Hello.
Mr. Bryson Bostwick.
Hey, everybody.
Last week, I looked at the transcript, the new transcript for Apple Podcast, and I saw that when I had said eloquent, it said, I am your old one. And so I wanted to make sure that I enunciated eloquent this time for the listeners. So
yeah, it did
anyway.
sound very proper that time.
Yeah, okay. Every time I listen to the podcast, I think that I don't enunciate. I sound like I'm slurring my words. So I apologize. I'm getting better. All right.
I've actually, in going back and listening to old episodes, I've been playing each of them at, I think 1.4 speed.
Yeah.
And it's allowed me to understand you talking now a whole lot better.
Yeah, seriously. I don't know what happened.
Because
but
I'm hearing
I
you
did.
speak so much faster than.
I know.
And I'm
I go back and listen. I think I did increase
so
my
slow
rate of
now.
speech at some point. But I think I sound more articulate at 2 times speed for me than 1 time speed.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't know what
Absolutely.
it is. But anyway. Okay. So we're going to talk about the Aeneid, books 3 and 4 today. And to do that, we need to introduce our new segment, guys. Explaining to the member of the podcast who didn't do the reading what the reading was about. So sometimes it's Tanner, but Tanner's been on it the past couple weeks.
Thank you.
And
Wasn't here last week. What do you
he
mean?
wasn't here last week. He wasn't.
Well, man.
I still read it.
He read it. Okay,
This
well,
week.
Bryson's the offending member again, so it's our task to educate Mr. Bryson so he can be educating you guys.
Yeah.
So, Isaiah, when you start us off, what happens kind of book 3, kind of what's going on? Just
give me
do
the
general broad plot. I don't think we'll spend too much time
Okay,
discussing it.
So if I remember correctly, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Essentially, Aeneas and the people that fled from Troy make ships. Yeah. First off, they meet a ghost of the dude that worked at the palace. I forgot.
Also,
what his role was.
this is still Aeneas talking to Dido, describing what happened in the past about their journey. Yeah.
And this is him describing what happened after he fled from Troy. He meets a ghost dude who tells him he has to go to where? Doesn't he tell him he has to go somewhere like Carthage?
Yeah, it's kind of like it's very similar to the Iliad. Odyssey.
Oh.
I apologize.
Yeah.
In terms of Odysseus
Guys, we
getting
have a map.
information about what has to happen for him
Yeah.
to go home, and so a bunch of places are talked about.
Mhm.
You go to that port, you go to that port. Eventually, you make your way to Italy.
Yeah.
So-
Well, they make some ships and they set sail, and then they end up going to an island that has a bunch of harpies on it. They kill the cows, sheep, and all that, and have a whole big feast. Yep. And then the harpies come and attack them. And they leave the island. And after a big fight, they basically curse him and tell him that he is going to end up going to, I forgot where, but that he is destined to go to this one city. No matter
Carthage.
what. Yeah, that it'll happen after, they'll know it'll happen whenever they're so hungry that they will be forced to try and eat their tables and stuff.
Nice.
Eat the table.
Yeah, it's kind
I've
of
heard
weird.
of people
Are the
eating
tables
sawdust
made of
before.
bananas or what?
No, Bryson. If they were made of bananas, it wouldn't be a curse.
So yeah.
Okay,
they
so
curse them
Bryson,
and
this
they
is a
leave.
table, and
Yeah.
it's made out of.
Yes. And then
I've never thought about
don't they
eating
go
a
to
table before.
Yeah.
what is it? The Cyclops Island next?
Yeah, they do.
They go.
Wait, I remember that happening in a different
Don't they
book.
meet? No, they meet the guy
They meet the guy
who is with Odysseus or Ulysses in
or
this
Ulysses,
one.
yeah, on
Inside
the
the-
island.
yeah.
And then the blind Cyclops or half-blind Cyclops that Odysseus stabbed in the eye.
I was picturing.
wanders onto the beach and they start getting attacked and they flee.
I was picturing. Oh my gosh! I just had who's
Wow.
the genie? Oh my goodness, what's his name?
Alive.
From Aladdin?
The old one, yeah.
The old one. Oh,
Robin Williams?
Yeah, I was picturing Robin Williams coming back from Jumanji when he's in that jungle outfit.
Yeah.
That's what I was picturing. I've seen things you wouldn't imagine inside that cave. That's what I was picturing. Very fancy. Anyway, long story short,
Yeah. So
They keep
they
journeying.
meet him on the island and they almost get attacked by Cyclops. Just keep journeying.
they meet good old Hector's wife again, right?
They do.
My favorite
I
character.
don't remember that.
Andromache, yeah. And she's she was married to Achilles' son, which is kind of awkward. And then some other Trojan guy got her back, and she's now living out her days in
Right.
sorrow, trying to
Yeah.
Yeah, why on earth did she marry Achilles?
Did she-
Wait,
Not
no,
gonna
it
lie,
was against her will.
Did he
Okay,
have a? Did she
okay.
have a choice?
Yeah. Well, and Hector extensively talks about that. I was reading through it again, and Hector is like honestly saying like I want to fight because when I think about the children dragging you off, like I don't want that to happen. You know.
Mm-hmm. He knows what happened to Helen from the other side, and
kind of, but also like it's just the culture. Like when you sack the city, you know, you take prizes. That kind of thing.
round them up.
So,
exactly.
anyway,
I don't remember what else happened in that book.
so the new husband is Helenus.
Yes, Helenus.
Yes, Helenus. Is your new
Is that
husband?
dude?
Yes. Yes.
I can't remember he's the son of who. He's the son of
Is he one of Priam's sons?
Priam's sons. I think so too. And what did they make? Like, what did their? One of the like two that's left. What did they?
Yeah, right.
When they were their home, what is their home like?
Banana tables.
They made a little Troy.
Oh yeah.
Did they?
Yeah.
I mean, they're
like,
kind of the remnant of the Trojans. So.
Yeah, like they made their home like or their.
Yeah, and I remember because
There
it's
were
really described as
walls up.
sad because when it comes to Andromache, it's sad because she is trying to like honor Hector and mourn him, even though she didn't really have like the appropriate means that she would have had in Troy to mourn him, you know, and so like she's kind of had to construct something. But so it seems kind of like this new Troy that's kind of happy, but at the same time isn't quite what it used to be, and obviously it's not going to be like Rome according to Virgil. So
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
But, so they've tried to make this, and it was, however it was made, it just made Aeneas feel like, I ain't right. Something's
off.
Something's off.
I just gotta say, it's like so weird looking at and reading Virgil and seeing Rome as like the promised land.
Yeah.
Like the whole Roman Empire of when we think of that, we think of the persecution of Christians. We think of Caesar's
what's
reign.
fascinating to me though is like getting in, experiencing that, but also remembering like when Rome fell, the greatest theologian ever had to write a book about like why that wasn't the end of Christianity. You know what I mean? Like people love Virgil, like he was the Christian Homer. You know what I mean? They love that Rome was supposed to be the founding place of the Emperor Constantine, that whole thing. And so like I feel you like as modern Western Christians, we have this context of understanding that Rome, you know, was largely responsible for oppressing Christians early on.
Yeah.
They eventually became the birthplace of Christianity, which actually is how God likes to work.
Yeah.
Oh, you're against me?
Yeah.
Well, how about you become the birthplace of my kingdom? You know.
Yeah. How about you become my people?
Exactly.
And
The kingdom of this world has become the kingdom of our God. That's what Revelation says. Yeah.
Yeah. Man. Yeah. And just taking, all of that, all of the pain and the hurt and the sorrow that the Romans did cause, and just turning it against them. But yeah, also looking forward to that, but looking past it and seeing like what has Rome done to us now? Where would we be without the Roman culture as a society, as Americans, but as Christians? Yeah, like you said, where would our faith be if those people hadn't been persecuted? If Christianity had not been like
Isaiah, you've got your hand patiently
multiplied.
raised. So
We said this was going to be a quick summary.
you're right.
We're
Moving on. Read the thing next.
we
time,
always
Bryson.
change the summary into let's talk about this.
Where did they hit before they got to Carthage?
Mom asked where did they hit before they got to Carthage. They hit Sicily.
Right?
Yeah.
That's a very good question.
Vizzini
Cooper?
from The Princess Bride was born in Sicily.
Cooper, that is just
Never go in
inconceivable.
against the Sicilian when death is on the line. Okay, what's
Dad dies.
that's right.
Does he?
I forgot about that. I kind of
Dad
I'll be
dies.
honest. I read.
Oh yeah.
I remember a lot more book 4 than book 3. And I
Yeah,
know in
yeah.
book 4 he says like,
Same.
yeah, my dad died, but I don't remember
My dad
how that happened.
did.
So he just died.
Dead.
Old age.
Unnatural causes. The gods were like,
But I think
Yeah.
that leads us to have to talk about book
So book 4.
4.
I really feel like here we're gonna spend like the majority of our discussion,
Yes.
and so we might not just do a recap, but we'll just kind of go through. So
So what happened to the whole recapping it for Bryson though?
Yeah, well,
Yeah, I still am
we've
in
been
the
talking
dark.
about it. We talk about it. All right, book 4, Aeneas is done telling the story. Dido is like, oh man, this guy. I mean, come on. Not only
What
is
a
he
G.
a warrior dude, but he's like got this honor, and he's been through all these things, and I've been through all these things. I'm feeling a connection. And we're like, why fight together? She probably doesn't say that because I'm not sure. I'm not sure they had. I'm not sure they had pickup lines back then. But then she.
I don't know.
Wi-Fi?
Achilles seemed to have a couple
I
of
want to
those.
hear you actually try and use that pickup.
Then Juno, or Hera is like, hey, I think that Dido's a way I can like get back at Aeneas and the Trojans. So let me go to Venus because she's always known for like, looking past vendettas to go get some people in love. And so let me go ask Venus if she'll help me out and
Wait,
like
I
get
thought
these
Venus
together.
was Aeneas's
She is,
mom.
yeah. But she is wary. So she is wary. So here,
How about we
So,
just go loyal
Juno
up
ma-
problems for my son? That's what.
so basically Juno offers her like a truce. Let her marry Aeneas. Like, come on, help me out. But then Venus says, perceiving at once that this was all a pretense, a ruse to shift the kingdom of Italy onto Libyan shores, Venus countered Juno. So she kind of realizes Hera doesn't want Rome to happen, and so she's trying to like stop Aeneas in his tracks here. And so she doesn't really give in all that much.
Which is
Um,
completely a mood swing from what we've been reading.
But
this
then
whole time.
Juno basically gets Venus to agree to help her, but Venus says she nodded in assent, but smiling all at the guile she saw through. So she is kind of understanding that Juno still hates Aeneas and kind of Venus through him. So she is like on guard about it, and I think is going to try and obviously not get Aeneas to like get so in love with Dido that he's going to stay and not leave. So anyway, basically what happens is it Juno who makes it rain?
They go hunting, right? And there's a massive storm.
Oh yeah.
The goddess of love, like Cupid, it's like,
Oh yeah.
but whatever, shoots arrows into Dido.
How dare she?
Oh, by the way, Miss Emily.
Dido and makes Aeneas.
Yeah. By the way, Miss Emily just said that the goddess of love, Cupid or whatever it is, shoots arrows into both of them to make them like each other.
Yeah, anyway, so it starts raining. Everybody flees, and guess what? Dido and Aeneas flee together. And so here is
Big news.
here's I want to read this because I think it's a very good paragraph, and I'm like, okay, it's pretty good writing there, and it kind of describes very succinctly what happened. So, too late, the skies have begun to rumble, peals of thunder first, and the storm breaking next. A cloudburst pelting hail, and the troops of hunters scatter up and down the plain. Tyrian comrades, bands of Dardans, Venus' grandson Iulius panicking, running for cover quick, and down the mountain gullies erupt in torrents. Dido and Troy's commander make their way to the same cave for shelter now. Primordial earth and Juno, queen of marriage, give the signal, and the lightning torches flare, and the high sky bears witness to the wedding. Nymphs on the mountain tops wail out the wedding hymn. This was the first day of her death, the first of grief, the cause of it all. From now on, Dido cares no more for appearances, nor for her reputation either. She no longer thinks to keep the affair a secret. No, she calls it a marriage, using the word to cloak her sense of guilt. So it kind of is very like vague, but also gets across what's going on here. Of like, Juno is kind of like manipulating things, and we have some cool description of like, the wedding hymn, the moaning of the wind is the wedding hymn, and the lightning is the wedding torches and that kind of thing. And then they consummate their relationship in the cave, basically. And so she thinks that they're kind of like married now, basically, even though she just kind of wants to use the word to kind of like, honestly, entrap Aeneas into thinking like, you got to stay with me because we're together now, that kind of thing, and to cloak her guilt. So that's kind of what happens. And then the rest of the book happens because the gods tell Aeneas, hey, bud, time to get a move on. And then Dido finds out that they're about to leave, and then he confronts them. And then Aeneas has to like tell her what's going on here. So do we want to read some of that, guys? Because it's pretty good. I don't know what line numbers you guys have.
Oh, gosh. Okay.
Mom took my... Wait, did she find the line?
If you find it, please tell me what it is.
Okay, so...
If not, I'll just be forced not to read it.
Did you find the line where...
Okay, so Mercury, who is also Hermes, basically yells at Aeneas and is like, what are you doing, bro? We got to go to Italy. Your destiny, man. So stop wasting your time. And so Aeneas wants to go. He yearns to be gone, to desert the land he loves. But then what is he going to say to his queen? And then her fury is mentioned. So we got the thing we talked about last time, the conflict between piety and fate and furor. So this kind of idea of passion over the principle of submitting to the god's will, that kind of thing. So here, Dido realizes, oh boy, they're leaving. She's caught wind of a plot, that kind of thing, and then they have a confrontation. So we can read as much as we want. I have here, at last she assails Aeneas before he said a word. Do you guys say that?
Oh, it's gonna be so hard to find that, dude.
It's like I have it at line 380. Might be a little-
380?
It's
Alright,
probably
I'll
gonna
go
be.
around
It's
there.
probably
Yeah,
gonna be
yours is
closer to
gonna
like
be different.
350, 340.
Where she faints.
No, I am
Wait, what was the line before?
4. I have it at 380, but
No,
I
the
would look
line that
earlier.
you said that was right before.
At last she assails Aeneas before he said a word. So, you traitor, you really believed you'd keep this a secret, this great outrage?
Oh, and I'm looking. Is that like the beginning of a paragraph section
Yes.
On page 109, like 5.
5.
thing?
That
Let me
late?
see.
Can I see? Let me try to find it.
While we were looking for this, a quick word from Cooper Cobbs.
I'm talking, baby. I love talking. I love microphones. I love talking. I love talking into microphones. Okay, no, this is okay. Line
Dido
4.
be
Okay,
like.
I am at line 415 in your translation.
There's no way he just found it that fast.
Well, I just turned one page.
Wait, this is not what you said though.
Yeah, well, it's
Yeah, it's
because
a
it's
different
translation.
It's a different.
At last she
translation.
assails Aeneas before he said a word. So, you traitor, you really believed to keep this a secret, this great outrage. Is it pretty close to that?
Wait, where are we?
Yeah, let's start at line
415.
415 of 106, and then it'll be a little bit different, but it's still. I'll read it that way.
I'm so confused because
just
I'm looking
trust
at
me.
it and it doesn't seem like the.
All through the shouting night, thus it turned out. She was the first to speak and charge Aeneas. You even hoped to keep me in the dark. As to this outrage, did you, two-faced man, and slip away in silence? Can our love not hold you? Can the pledge we gave not hold you? Can Dido not, now sure to die in pain? Even in winter weather must you toil, with ships and fret to launch against high winds for the open sea? Oh, heartless! Tell me now, if you were not in search of alien lands and of strange new homes, if ancient Troy remained, would ships put out for Troy on these big seas? Do you go away to get away from me? I beg you, by these tears, by your own right hand, since I have left my wretched self nothing but that. Yes, by the marriage that we entered on. If ever I did well, and you were grateful, or found some sweetness in a gift from me, have pity on a declining house. Put this plan by, I beg you, if a prayer is not yet out of place. Because of you, Libyans and nomad kings detest me. My own Tyrians are hostile. Because of you, I lost my integrity, and that admired name by which alone I made my way once toward the stars. Keep going.
Yeah, we can probably skip over some of this stuff. I'm gonna read Aeneas' response. Okay.
Okay.
So she's like, I'm devastated, and he goes, at last he ventured a few words. You have done me so many kindnesses, and you could count them all. I shall never deny what you deserve, my queen. Never regret my memories of Dido, not while I can recall myself and draw the breath of life. I'll state my case in a few words. I never dreamed I'd keep my flight a secret. Don't imagine that. Nor did I once extend a bridegroom's torch, or enter into a marriage pact with you. If all the fates had left me free to live my life, to arrange my own affairs of my own free will, Troy is a city, first of all, that I'd safeguard. Troy, and all that's left of my people whom I cherish. The grand palace of Priam would stand once more. With mine own hands, I would fortify a second Troy to house my Trojans in defeat. But now, Granian Apollo's oracle says that I must seize on Italy's noble land. His Lycian lot say, Italy! There lies my love, my homeland now. If you, a Phoenician, fix your eyes on Carthage, a Libyan stronghold, tell me, why do you grudge the Trojans their new homes on Italian soil? What is the crime if we seek kingdoms far off too? Okay,
Dang, yours is so different.
let's see.
I know, and it's
much
much
easier
easier
to
to follow.
easier.
Yeah.
I'm kind of jealous of that.
Come, stop inflaming us both with your appeals. I set sail for Italy, all against my will. Okay, you guys want to just read her angry response, then we'll discuss what happens. So, no goddess was your mother is what I have.
Okay, I got it. No goddess was your mother.
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 No goddess was your mother. Dardanus was not the founder of your family. Liar and cheat. Some rough Caucasian cliff begot you on flint. I ain't even gonna try to say that. Oh.
Hyrcania?
Hyrcanian tigresses tendered their beats to you. Tendered their teats to you. Why should I palter? I can't do this anymore. Somebody else read this.
Okay.
Why still? Okay, how far?
Yeah, keep going until she says at the very end. Yeah, sure.
Why still hold back for more indignity? Sigh, did he while I wept? Or look at me, or yield a tear, or pity her who loved him? What shall I say first, with so much to say? The time is past when either Supreme Juno or the Saturnian Father viewed these things with justice. Faith can never be secure. I took the man in, thrown up on this coast in dire need, and in my madness then contrived a place for him in my domain, rescued his lost fleet, saved his shipmates' lives. Oh, I am swept in burning by furies. Now the prophet Apollo, now his oracles, now the god's interpreter. If you please, send down by Jove himself, brings through the air his formidable commands. What fit employment for heaven's high powers? What anxieties to plague serene immortals? I shall not detain you or dispute your story. Go after Italy on the sailing winds. Look for your kingdom, cross the deep sea swell. If divine justice counts for anything, I hope and pray that on some grinding reef, midway at sea, you'll drink your punishment and call on Dido's name. From far away I shall come after you with my black fires, and when cold death has parted body from soul, I shall be everywhere, a shade to haunt you. You will pay for this unconscionable. I shall hear. The news will reach me even among the lowest of the dead.
Nice.
That
Dang, I
wow.
would have messed up like 17 times throughout that.
That's
was good.
quite the.
It is quite a burn there. Anyway, so Aeneas really like he's driven by duty now, strongly as he longs to ease her and allay her sorrow, speak to her, and turn away her anguish with reassurance. Still moaning deeply, his heart shattered by love. In spite of all, he obeys the god's commands, and he goes back to his ships. So he goes to his ships after some struggle, not struggle, but like, moaning.
Yeah.
They leave. Dido basically tricks her sister, and like dupes her. It's like, I just want to offer a sacrifice, like go do all these things. And when her sister comes back, Dido has unfortunately like impaled herself and commits suicide. And then Juno, wanting to like relieve her of like her anguish because she's still kind of in the process of dying, like takes her spirit. So that happens, and it's tragic. And the section is called like the tragedy of the Queen of Carthage in my book. I don't know what you guys have.
I don't think we have a section.
We don't
named
have
after
The
all.
passion,
sections in
the
here.
passion of the queen.
The Passion of the Queen.
Oh, we have section names?
So she is so deeply in love with Aeneas.
No, we have book names, but Cooper has section names.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Like
and
these
so and
schools.
part of that speech as well that we heard was kind of setting up the Peloponnesian War. Like when she dies, she offers up like curses to the gods upon the Trojans or the eventual Romans, and so it's setting up what will eventually be the wars between Rome and these people, right? But also we have the conflict of we have the furor, the passion, the love between Aeneas and Dido, and then on the other hand we have Aeneas' mission, his purpose, his piety to fulfill the god's mission for his life. So we have a couple of conflicts and a couple of questions that need to be asked. Firstly, though, did Aeneas make the right decision in the context of Virgil's story, in the context of what Christian morality looks like? What do you guys think?
Well, I mean, first off, wasn't he forced to? Wasn't it not a decision?
In terms of what?
He literally says that he was forced to do that and that it was not of his own free will.
Well, yeah, he says if it was of my own free will, I would stay with you, basically.
Exactly. So it wasn't his decision.
Well,
So I
yeah,
don't
because
know
the
if we
gods
can
told
talk-
him to.
Yeah, I don't
That's
know
like
if we can talk-
that's like saying, Isaiah, I invite you over. You say you can't. My parents forced me to clean my room at home. I can't go to your house. Like I'm
Yeah,
saying,
but that's
you
still
could
not
you
my
could you could reject your parents' will for you and go over to my house,
I
but
mean,
that
it's
would be
different than,
disregarding.
like, the gods and the people that literally control
Not
his
these
entire
gods.
life.
I think. Okay, this is he dived right into.
Okay, I really think the conflict lies in that Isaiah, in that he submits. Piety is a duty and obligation, so he submits to the God's will, right? Instead of going after Dido. So I see what you're saying, but I don't think Dido certainly wouldn't accept. Oh, you have no accountability because the gods are puppeting your strings. Like I don't think that's what she would say. I don't know. I mean, I understand what you're saying, but like I'm looking at more. Why did he submit to the God? Is he right in submitting to the God's will instead of staying with Dido against their will?
I mean, we have no idea what would happen to him if he doesn't obey their
Yeah.
will. I mean,
Well,
who's
I mean, we
guaranteed that
can't-
he's going to have any life with Dido
Yeah.
afterwards if he doesn't?
Yeah, and
obey?
she seems
That's what I'm
kind of possessive.
Yeah, she's
If
not
I might
exactly
say.
the type of woman that he wants
I
to
think
be
a better word would be clingy.
You're right. That's a better word.
with.
But when
I
you're
mean-
married, can you be clingy? I don't know. Like it seems like it's a little
But were
different.
they married?
Okay, well, I'm saying like,
No.
were he to stay, then they would presume, probably
Yeah.
get married. Right. So that's another thing in all this is that Dido is like saying, "Hey, we're married." He's like, "Oh no."
Are we though? Are we
Okay,
really?
I think also in order to say that, I think we'd all say in the context of what Virgil is writing, he made the right decision. right?
Mhm.
Virgil sees this
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
you know, rejecting your passion, rejecting what you want in favor of piety, which is a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not to say that Aeneas handled the situation perfectly. You know, I mean, if we're looking at like his accountability in this situation, he deserves blame for leading her astray, like giving in to. We simply mentioned the idea that when he goes on the hunt, there's a description of him wearing like Carthage gowns, like he's kind of taking on the character of where he's living, and the pipe might be one of Mercury's rebukes to him. Like, you're kind of becoming one of these people. Don't get too comfortable here.
Yeah.
So he's kind of like misleading her, and then also gives into.
I mean, she definitely overreacted though. But like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I'm not saying. I'm saying there's blame all around here.
yeah.
Yeah.
But like, if we're saying okay, he made the right decision as a whole, he still could have acted better.
Yeah. Regardless
Mhm.
of Dido or what the gods want, what was the more pietous decision? Is basically what you're saying.
Right.
Yeah.
Sure.
So in the end.
Well, okay, that's assuming that piety is a good thing as well,
Yeah.
which is Virgil.
Yeah.
assumes it is. Yeah.
Very much so, according to Virgil. So, yeah, definitely going off and fulfilling his destiny, what he was made to do, is what is supposed to be happening, and honoring the gods as well.
Yeah. So let's take this out of the context of Virgil and like the pagan world for a second, and like move to the Christian world. So we have the idea of submitting to the will of the Lord, even when it's uncomfortable for us, right? So how would you guys say what would happen if you were in a relationship, and you were like, man, I love this girl, but I think that God is calling me away. Like, I think that ultimately the will of the Lord is not here, even though I love her. Like, what would you like? Is submitting to the will of the Lord a good thing in that scenario?
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of a rhetorical question.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
Not married. That's a good point. Good point. Not married.
Yeah. If the Lord is calling you somewhere else and you have prayed about it, for sure, if you've sought counsel in His Word.
If it's the Lord calling you.
Okay,
to
I guess
it.
it's true. But also, like, how would you break it to this girl as well? Because presumably she is in love with you as well.
The resounding answer is it's not. God told me.
No. No.
God told me is a great way to.
But what if he did? I mean, I don't know.
Are you
Okay,
just gonna
my-
go there and be
my
like, God
friend-
told me
okay,
to leave?
I mean, like, I'm not saying like you got a prophetic word. Or something.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
but,
Okay.
To note that Aeneas was in the wrong to even be in the relationship with her in the first place.
Yeah.
Yeah, Aeneas
Good
was
point.
not supposed to be there at all.
So he had already made a poor. Aeneas had already made a poor decision, an unpious decision, to be in the relationship with her in the first place. So that he lingered was not necessarily a problem. How he lingered in Carthage was a problem.
Right.
And so maybe the question might not be once you're in the relationship. You've already made some decisions once you're in the relationship. Maybe even backing out before that, do you enter into a relationship if you're not fully on the path that God has called you to
Right.
in the first place?
Right.
Yeah, and
Valid, but at the same time, like, you can't go back and change the past. And so if you made these decisions and you were in a place like this, which is going to be most of the time where people are whenever they're having to make these decisions. Most of the time, if you're doing something wrong, you're not going to know that you were doing something wrong until afterwards. And if you were aware that you were doing something wrong while you're in the middle of it, you're not going to be able to stop that by yourself. You're going to need God's help to do that, right? And so, as a general statement, I think that most people are going to find themselves in the position that Aeneas is in, specifically if they are unbelievers or believers who have strayed away. Not God told me. But I think
you're saying what do you do as in what do you say to the person?
Okay, if we're doing this, like, we're also understanding like there's a way in which God's will is revealed providentially and not always explicitly, like in a dream or in a word, right? So
most of the time
is-
there will be things like it could be something subtle in the relationship, or it could be something pretty big where you realize, okay, yeah, do I want this? Like when I am taking on this relationship, when I am getting married to this person, which in any relationship like that should be the end goal. Am I willing to take on all the problems, all of the all of the ideas, thoughts, everything that this person is going to bring into the relationship, or am I not? And are you willing to struggle through all those things with them? Are you willing to continually go to the throne of grace with them? Or is that going to be something that you do begrudgingly or are not willing to do at all? Because if it is, you should immediately cease and desist.
Cease and desist. Cease and desist.
But yeah, but still doing it with grace as well. Just making sure that you are honoring both them and the Lord at the same time. And that no one is being driven further away from Christ, but always being encouraged to draw closer to him.
So going back to Aeneas, like, do you guys remember what happened? Did Aeneas go directly to Dido?
Yeah, she kind of found out.
She
and
found
went
out.
and confronted him, and
Yeah.
he was kind of at a loss of words eventually when she kind
He's
of
like,
unleashed on him.
I'll tell her whenever it's a little bit more convenient, or when she's in a better mood, or whenever.
Right.
He wasn't willing to tell her from the get-go. So I'd say, if you're already in that position, then the sooner you come forward with, I don't think that this is it being you telling her instead of her finding out from friends that, oh, hey, he's packing his bags, he's ready to go. Like, this is where Dido and Aeneas were, right? Dido was watching them load the ships, and she's like, hold up, what's going on? So she comes down in a fury. She's already decided how she's responding. There's not a way to talk her out of it.
Another thing we could do is we talked about doing this, comparing like the David and Bathsheba story here, and there are similarities. Like one, like Miss M pointed out, David was not in battle when he should have been, not going out to war. Aeneas was hanging out here. Mercury's like, bro, what are you doing? You're wasting your time. You're getting too comfortable here. But we also see kind of inverse of the woman is like the one pursuing and kind of setting and doing machinations kind of thing. But what I love about the David and Bathsheba story is just the repentance that follows, and then God working through that to bring Solomon. So we see, God working through evil, seeing repentance, and bringing good out of it. We don't really see that here a whole ton.
No.
We just see submitting to pietas is always good, and he has submitted to pietas, which will, way down the road result in Rome. And even though all this happened, and even though it's more complex than we like it to be, like there is still blood on Aeneas' hands a little bit, he overall made the right choice, And so it's, in a sense, a less satisfying story, and definitely more tragic, because there's not a ton of repentance involved, and so we don't have that assurance. The last thing I want to talk about is, can pietas ever coexist with furor? So in the book, and largely because, the ancient Romans and Virgil were Stoics, and they were all about controlling your passions. Yeah. And so it actually presented like east-west here. East, land of mystery and mystique and passion, and the west is duty and stoicism and that kind of thing. But I think there are scenarios in which, Song of Solomon, duty to God, pietas, can result in passionate love. So like, what are the contexts maybe in which piety, submitting to your duty obligations to God's sovereignty and his will, can also result in passion, and love? Maybe I gave it away there. I don't know.
Yeah. Who would have thought that this would have turned into a relationship podcast?
Yeah. We feel unqualified, believe us. But,
when the Aeneid calls, we have things to say.
Like, okay, what I think is, my concern is in the Aeneid, it's always presented as pietas is pretty much always in conflict with passion and furor. But I think what we see is that they can coexist. We can see passion within the piety, and so piety means rejecting, your own pleasure, rejecting your own.
Yeah, and most of the time when we think of piety, like I talked about this last week, when we think of piety, we do not think of passion at all. Right. This is a more docile virtue. Not
even more docile, but even like puritanical sometimes.
Yeah,
what I mean? In the negative sense of the word.
Yes.
But also, the idea of piety is, I think we miss the distinction when we try to separate these to a dichotomy, like passion and piety. We forget that there is sacrifice in piety and there is sacrifice in passionate love as well. Love your wives as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her. So in the biblical version of Eros, passionate love,
Yeah.
it is strongly connected to piety in terms of duty and obligation to the beloved in sacrificing, and in being with her and loving her and cherishing her forever, self-sacrificially.
Yeah, true passion does not mean always getting what you want and
Right.
pursuing what you desire.
In fact, often it is more piety than, furor in a marriage, for sure.
Yeah, true passion should be forsaking those things that aren't holy, aren't good, aren't building you up, and instead sacrificing the things that you desire wrongly and only pursuing the things that.
So let me say two words
Are
nobody
good.
ever expected me to say, Jane Eyre.
I love it.
I've been looking at Jane Eyre again because I'm, trying to act it out, doing an interp on it.
Yeah.
And so in Jane Eyre, we kind of have the dichotomy here of Rochester, who Jane eventually would marry, is this very passionate figure. Jane is very attracted to him. He's a vigorous kind of, young. You're not young. He's not terribly young, but he's, alive and passionate and vigorous.
Mhm.
And then we have the character of St. John, right, where she stays when she's not with Rochester. And then he's kind of this very much, we would call pious, duty-bound, virtuous, but kind of cold and stony. And wants Jane to marry him because he thinks she'll be a good missionary wife in India,
Mhm.
And Jane realizes, I can't do this, And so eventually she comes back to Rochester. But what's very important is that Rochester embodies now kind of the best of both these traits, because he is no longer the overly passionate, disregarding all principles person that he used to be, because he's been humbled. Because he's injured, he's blind, he's maimed, he's a lot poor, lowly estates. And so that actually is much more compelling to Jane. He thinks that she will be disgusted by how he is, but she loves him all the more for it.
Mhm.
And so we have this conclusion of the piety and the passion, honestly, in Jane Eyre, of the not cold-hearted, but not overly passionate over principle, but kind of this union of perfect harmony. I mean, obviously Jane Eyre is not a perfect example because it's not
Jane
an
Eyre is-
infallible
Jane
guide
Eyre
to
is a-
relationships, but
Jane Eyre is a
It's
crazy example.
it's great. It is, but it reminded me of this as I've been reading it again.
So that stands in stark contrast to who Dido is, because when the part that you guys read, sorry, I'm taking y'all back to you.
Yeah.
So that stands in stark contrast to who Dido is, and the part that you read about how she's like, you did this to me, you did this. Those were her decisions, right? She said that he made her look bad in front of her people, that he made her stop building up Carthage, and those were her decisions. She decided to do that, and in her decision to pursue him passionately, she pursued Aeneas rather than her own calling. So she kind of gave up on that and pursued him rather than her own calling and her duty and her responsibilities. So when Aeneas starts to pick up and do what his calling was and what his responsibilities were, that makes her loathe him all the more. So as much as she loved him, she now hates him, right?
Right.
Like her.
She's the embodiment of fear, rejecting piety altogether.
Yes.
So, and we kind of see the embodiment of the tension within the gods as well, of Jupiter and kind of the guys, and Mercury being the more piety focused, and then Juno being the more furor. Let's wreck all the plans. Let's get these
we've
people.
gone through 2 books so far
Yeah.
Juno Hera is burning with hatred the whole time.
Exactly. And Venus kind of helps her out a little bit, even though she kind of sees through it. She kind of helps them get temporarily in love as well. So she's kind of complicit, even though she's submitting to the piety eventually. So yeah. All right. Any final thoughts? All right, Tanner, tell us what people can do to find us, more of us.
Oh, yes.
It is your duty, your piety, to go find out. No, okay.
Okay, guys, we have an amazing website. It's called 412podcasting.com. It has a lot of very cool things for you, including but not limited to a blog featuring me, Bryson, and Cooper, because Isaiah has nothing that he thinks he can contribute.
Even though he does, definitely.
He definitely has
choose to
stuff to
write.
contribute.
Write about cybersecurity and God. That'd be a fun blog post. Seriously.
That would be
I
a
want
fun.
to see that.
I'll just put
Can I
my
commission that?
summary of my thesis paper
Oh, yeah, sure.
on there.
Yeah.
We'll go
Sure.
with that eventually once I
Yeah.
write it.
Yeah.
Yes,
it.
that would be amazing. And we'll guarantee that he does that if you will go ahead and...
Wait.
Guarantee.
Wait, whoa.
Let's not make promises. All right?
Come on, man.
Podcasting and promises.
Anyways, we also have a newsletter, and right now we are in the idea stage of the newsletter, as in Tanner is run
Thank you,
out
by
of...
the way, for those of you who have emailed in and submitted
Yes.
ideas. That was
Yes,
great.
we have
Thank
a
you.
monthly newsletter that we do on the first of every month, and I've been running out of ideas. And so anybody that has an idea, feel free to, we have a contact us page down there, and you can go ahead and send us some ideas of things you would want to see in that newsletter so we can make it tailored to you. I know. Anything else? Oh, patreon.com.
/ booking it.
That's right,
Come on,
guys.
guys.
All right, bro, so bro-
That was cool, actually.
people there can support us, and $5 or more gets you a donor shout out, which we're about to do. So, Nana, Van Papi Abuela,
Van Papi Abuela.
Isaiah's grandparents, Mike and Sylvia,
Mike and Sylvia, thank you.
Moses and Zara,
Moses and Zara, awesome.
and Jenny and Uncle Sam,
And
Thank
Jenny
you,
and
Jenny,
Uncle
Uncle
Sam.
Sam.
Mr. Mike and Mrs. Laura.
Mr. Mike, Miss
Laura.
Laura.
Hello.
Wait. That was Anna, right?
Trying to
That was
vary,
Anna,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Yeah,
vary
okay.
my pitch here, so make it more fun.
Emily. Emily.
Keenan.
Keenan.
Howdy.
Howdy.
I just say my mom normal. Miss Jenny.
Oh, wow. That's
Mrs. Hall.
Mrs.
Hall.
Hall.
Miss Hall.
William.
William.
Kara.
Kara.
I got first.
I was
Kara.
like, is
Definitely
that-
Kara.
I was so
got-
confused.
I
I'm like,
had
was
to
that a
spice
new
these up.
patron
Yeah,
that
so
I didn't know about?
yeah, so if any of you felt like you didn't hear your name,
Yeah,
It was
right.
Cooper saying it wrong, probably.
Well, next week we are off from podcasting recording-wise, but you will be getting an episode on Sherlock Holmes that Bryson and I did. That is
yeah,
a
where
lot
I
of
actually
fun.
talked, where I
We
actually did some
had a
talking.
great discussion on Sherlock Holmes and
It was
somehow
very good.
vigilantism and Mormonism, and it was great. So check that out next week. I know, guys.
It's one of those things where you go into the podcast and you're just like,
What
okay,
are we
we're
gonna
just
talk
gonna
about?
talk
Yeah.
about Sherlock Holmes, and then
Everything comes out. It's great.
yeah,
It's great.
talk about everything.
So
else.
you guys enjoy that. Hope you enjoyed this. We'll see you next time. Till then.
Keep on booking it.